gentlemen, and I will acknowledge you all, I must say at the outset, we have been under tremendous pressure. I felt a massive weight on my shoulders how to do this exercise quickly and properly and answer and respond back to the Cabinet, the Prime Minister, and to the people of Papua New Guinea something of value in such a short time. It's been a huge and difficult task, myself and the steering committee. We appreciated the opportunity, but also we felt this tremendous pressure to answer back to our people of Papua New Guinea and give some sort of solution, perhaps, or help in the solution to our good Prime Minister. It hasn't been easy. The time has been short, but with wonderful partners and friends, we've tried our very best to respond to Cabinet and the Prime Minister and give something good back to the people of Papua New Guinea. Because, quite frankly, everyone is tired of plans. We've got excellent plans in place. We have the Vision 2050 and the PNG DSP. We have great medium-term development for Connie Samuel is sitting here and all our wonderful people in the government. We don't need any more plans. This is not an attempt to produce another detailed costing, a detailed programmatic, symptomatic-driven plan. It's an attempt to address the underlying issues as to why the existing plans are not being implemented sufficiently and adequately. That is the gist of this. And at the heart of it is a mindset. It's a leadership mindset. It's a governance and management issue. Because this is a wonderfully blessed country, as you all know. Wonderfully blessed country. When I stood here last time, I mentioned the example of Israel, a tiny desert country the size of West New Britain. Of course, everybody slammed me back on the social media. They're destroying Gaza and killing people. I know that is not right. But that was not the point I was making. We all condemn the actions in Gaza. That is a complex issue. The point I was making, small desert country, surrounded by enemies, the innovation, the technology, the drive, the focus, $583 billion economy. Compare that to Papua New Guinea, our situation. Surrounded by wonderful friends, full of resources, sunshine, the rain pours on us, as the Prime Minister keeps saying. Why have not we progressed at the same rate as our regional friends and globally even? And this is the underlying question that we are putting. So please, this is not another plan. People are tired of plans. This is why the existing plans are not being implemented at the rate they should be. Why some of our indicators are so low relative to the world. This is objectively driven by four independent reports, I should say. I want to make that very clear. These three of them at the back of this report, and the fourth one is this one done in collaboration with the University of Papua. Okay? It's not just the dream of Sumara and Charles Abel or anyone else. It is objectively driven based on facts and figures, and we need to get back to an approach that uses facts and figures to drive our decision making. One of the tenets, important tenets in research Papua New Guinea. Everything must be driven by the truth, by reality. Okay? You can't avoid politics sometimes. That is one of the issues. Our leaders are constantly dealing with politics and are not able to address development issues simply based on facts and figures. Okay? I come back to this point. It takes a vision, a mindset of change, the realization of what the facts are and responding appropriately to the facts and needs of our people. Okay. I always say that, I tend to sort of start rambling on. I've tried my best to write a written speech today, but written speeches tend to be a little bit structured and boring. At the same time, they're concise and to the point, I suppose. So let me refer back to some of my notes. But once again, we acknowledge our good Prime Minister, a man that is constantly on the go and constantly moving, a man of tremendous energy. Okay, we are here to help him achieve his vision for the country as well. That's what it's about. It's about teamwork, as we try to show on the screen. At the same time, we must be honest with each other. I believe the Prime Minister selected Sumara and Charles Abel because we tend to be people that just speak our mind. Okay? We're not here to play politics. To fluff up the government. Okay? We're here to try and give some of that objective truth that I'm talking about. So thank you, Prime Minister, for selecting us, knowing that perhaps we might say some things you may not agree with, you might feel a bit uncomfortable with. And honestly speaking, this document does say some uncomfortable truths, including the fact that executive government is overreaching into everything. There's too much politics running our country at the moment. Most things are driven by politics in this country. It permeates almost everything. Okay, me. Sorry. Thank you. You come at the right time. Welcome. So, Prime Minister, we acknowledge you. All our other invited guests are here today, particularly Grand Chief John Monas. We thank him and acknowledge him as always. It's amazing at 80 years of age, he's still able to participate like this. It is amazing. The chairman of the Land Commission or committee is still with us and able to impart that history to us. What a blessing, Lord. You can hear directly from the source. The man that traveled around the country and consulted and built this beautiful constitution with the help of other people as well. So, Grand Chief, we continue to acknowledge you. Thank you for only talking to me this morning and agreeing to come along, and also accepting to say a few words before our Prime Minister speaks. We acknowledge you. Our other invited guests are sitting at the panel here. Dr. Osborne Salida, Director for the National Research Institute, who did the primary source document behind this activity. He will come and speak as well just after me, so we appreciate you and your help, and we acknowledge the NRI as well. Obviously, the Chancellor will acknowledge, thank you. All our invited guests have already been acknowledged. The seniors that are sitting in front here, and particularly all the heads of our government agencies. As I was saying this morning, I know you get tired of these launchings. I know that, there's sometimes too much talking and not enough action. That's what I keep saying. But we appreciate your time. You're busy people. And once again, as I say, we put on that basketball uniform with the colors of Papua New Guinea. We are all Team Papua New Guinea. Okay? This is not an attempt to try and talk at you or talk down upon you. This is an attempt to help us and help you and help our people of Papua New Guinea. So please understand, as I keep saying, it is Team Papua New Guinea. We will take the time to communicate this document. We will travel around and talk to all our diplomatic partners and development partners and everyone else, right down to our grassroots people. Wallace Yakum, the director of the CIMC, was part of our steering committee. And I was hoping she would help me in the delivery unit with the communication side of things. We must make sure the ordinary people of Papua New Guinea understand what government is talking about. Ultimately, though, the message is that we are all part of this development process and exercise. Development and change starts with you and I, doesn't it? Very importantly. What am I contributing to Papua New Guinea? So, this morning's program is primarily for the Prime Minister himself to launch the document. It is the Prime Minister who has initiated and sponsored this document to Cabinet. He will also launch the site on the department web page, so that ordinary Papua New Guineans, or most of them, can click on it and see the document themselves. And then, of course, he will cut the ribbon and launch the book. Following the remarks from myself and Dr. Osborne Salida, and of course, we will get the Grand Chief to come in and speak. We will then, after launching, we will break for lunch, and it is at 2 o'clock onwards when we will have, I will present the document in a bit more detail. Okay? It's not appropriate to do it right now, but I'll take it through in some more detail for us to understand. For those of you who want to stay back and see that, we'll have Arthur to also speak, and we will also have David Waring. I want the CEO of the NMCA to also talk to us and tell us what that new organization is going to do, how it is going to interact with the Reset at 50 delivery unit in this important exercise that we are undertaking. We will also give an opportunity for questions from the media and the public. I just come back to the point. I tried to show the video today, of course. It was only half the video, but we acknowledge PNG basketball team and Mr. Kurari Muri there and the Muri family. And we're very, very proud of that the gold medal that the PNG collect, the silver medal that the ladies collect. It's amazing, as the Prime Minister was saying when we welcome them back, what a unifying thing sport is for Papua New Guinea. With our rugby league coming up, we'll take all these opportunities to bring our people together, because it is difficult to unite this country sometimes. 800 different languages, and the geography, etc., etc. It is not easy. Let us utilize those moments to drive the spirit of unity in Papua New Guinea. Okay, I spoke here recently at the PNG update, collaboration between the ANU and UPNG, and I promised to bring this document back to you, and indeed that's why I'm standing here today. My opening statement, again, of that day was less talk and more action, which I've repeated. That remains relevant today. I am primarily a person of action. As I said, no one is interested in more plans. We are supporting the existing plans. This is not another plan, it is an attempt to address the underlying issues as to the implementation of those plans. I just quote here quickly James 2:17 as well. Faith without works is dead. Okay? Faith without works is dead. Even the Bible drives us to action. Too many empty words or too many words are meaningless unless you back it up with necessary action. And That action starts with us personally. If we are driven by our faith, if we believe in the Bible, if we are Christians, we need to act at a personal level. It has to transform your life. If you transform your life, it will transform the nation. Transform the nation. At 50 years since independence, and again, it was so impressive, Prime Minister, the way our people came together and celebrated the 50th independence celebration. Okay, we were thinking, oh, there's going to be problems. No. There was great pride and joy. There was great resilience in our people. People still believe very much in this sovereign state of Papua New Guinea. Okay? We still subscribe to it. And we believe in Papua New Guinea. But the question that PM has asked us to examine is how are we tracking against the aspirations of our Grand Chief here and our other founding fathers as captured in the Constitution. And I think it's entirely appropriate that 50 years these questions are asked. And the Prime Minister declared on the 9th of February, he announced a comprehensive government review leading to a 20-year roadmap. I want to just say again and repeat this point. This is not a map as such. It is not a roadmap as such. Our roadmap is the Constitution of the Vision 2050. This is just an examination of the underlying impediments to the implementation. NEC came up with a decision number 90 on 2025, the 30th of April, which established a steering committee. And in terms of reference for this work, obviously I was the chairman, appointed and deputy chair by Arthur Sumare, and we scrambled in 2 months to put this review together in 1 month and write this document in another month to have it ready by July deadline, so that it can be taken through the process, the government caucus, etc., and ultimately get to this point here today, but even more ultimately to get to the implementation side of it. I just say some history quickly, which I said here last time to some extent. My grand uncle, Sir Cecil Abel, was the first lecturer in political science at the newly established Administration College when Lieutenant Governor Sir Hubert Murray asked him to take on the role in 1963. Obviously, all these early institutions, including UPNG in 1965, were being established in preparation for independence. So Sir Cecil Abel was the first lecturer in political science at the Admin College. Previously, Sir Hubert had tasked Sir Cecil Abel at the time to lead an expedition into the Kunika area of Abau, the inland area of Abau, to talk to the people there to refuse to stop fighting. In those days, in 1934, those Kunika people, in order to get married, you have to kill someone and chop their fingers off. And so they chop their fingers off, they dry them, of course, and hang them by their ears. Hang them on their ears, and the more fingers you have, the more qualified you are to get married. Just imagine the pressure on you to kill somebody. The government administration was struggling to stop them from killing themselves, so he would ask Cecil to go up. And as I write in my book there, when he went up there, they said, so here comes a white man, we can kill a white man, because he took no police patrol with him. He was the first white man not to come with a police patrol. He only went with his missionaries, and they planned to kill him when they went hunting. But when they saw him shoot a wallaby from quite a distance away, and when they saw the way he was slept in the same house with the local people and ate with them and was speaking the same language with them, they changed their minds. Anyway, he ended up establishing a mission there, school and hospital and so on, under the Quado Church. And the Quado Church was the church established by my great-grandfather, Reverend Charles Abel. You see the book outside on the table there, the big blue book, written by Nancy Lutton, who was a librarian here and did her master's thesis here at UPNG on Reverend Charles Abel. So it was my great-grandfather. Sir Cecil was the founding member of the Bully Heath Club and the Pangu Party, and he was elected in 1968 as the first regional member for Milne Bay. He was credited with writing the preamble to the Constitution. Okay, now I think it was based on the fact that he wrote the 8-point economic plan for the Pangu Party. Okay, those equity, inclusion, sovereignty, and all those elements came out of that and formed the basis of the preamble to the Constitution. He was a senior advisor to Sir Michael when Sir Michael became Chief Minister in 1972. So there's a relationship there between the Abel family and the Sumare family, but obviously deep links back into the foundation of this nation, because Arthur obviously is the son of Sir Michael Sumare, and Sir Michael Sumare needs no introduction whatsoever, like my family history. So these are some of the reasons, apart from the fact Arthur and I have spent 3 terms in Parliament separately and various capacities as ministers and so on. So the Prime Minister decided, despite the fact that we were politicians, to ask us to drive this document, Prime Minister. Thank you so much. We were also supported by a fantastic steering committee, and we had to put together a technical committee, as I said, and the Chief Secretary and the department, all the staff were fantastic. Okay? And so the initial task after putting the technical committee together was to try and develop some source documentation for the review itself. I'm going to drive down to these documents now quickly, because I don't want to take too much of your time. But the three source documents you will find in the back of this document. The first one is from the NRI, National Research Institute. It is called Review of Papua New Guinea's Development Performance 1975 to 2024. From the CIMC, Regional and National Forums, they produced a report called Snapshot Report National Development Forum Recommendations 2014 to 2024. 10 years of consulting with civil society and the public as to what those recommendations and needs from our people were. From the UNDP, okay, a high-power delegation came, including the Chief Economist of Asia and the Pacific, and they did a document called PNG at 50, Delivering for Development. The fourth document, which I've already mentioned, is this book here, which was the collaboration that was launched by the Treasurer at the recent PNG update, okay, by Professor Stephen Howes. It's a collaboration with the University of Papua New Guinea and Australian National University. It's called Struggle, Reform, Boom and Bust, and it is an economic history of Papua New Guinea since independence. So the Professor kindly made the book available to us before it was released to the public, and we thank Professor Howes and ANU and UPNG for that. Now I'm going to quote from each of these reports, if you'll bear with me. Number one, the NRI report states, beyond the political independence focus, big questions remain in terms of whether real development has been achieved. The review shows that development planning has become a political and bureaucratic culture in PNG. Unfortunately, the overall impact on national development has been limited due to weak implementation. Weak implementation is due to resourcing constraints, unclear objectives and targets, lack of ownership, lack of alignment, lack of public participation, lack of reliable data, and lack of monitoring and evaluation. Okay, this is the NRI saying, this is not me. Another key issue affecting successive fiscal policy formulation and implementation is high population growth. For example, for the period 2009 to 2024, population growth was around 2.7% annually against real GDP growth rate of 0.3%. There is a need to grow the economy to cater for the needs and demand of the population. In the medium to long term, strategic intervention is needed to manage the growth of the population. Another quote from the NRI report. In the last 15 years, the review showed that rather than focusing on lawmaking and executive oversight, MPs assumed the role of subnational service providers, blurring the distinction between legislative functions and the role of the bureaucracy. Prime Ministerial tenure has lengthened partly due to OLIPAC, constitutional amendments, and increasing use of DSIP and PSIP funds as political tools. Another quote, okay, because it's a long document that they've done. The final strategic intervention to improve development plan implementation is to strengthen the modality of the private sector as a driver for development with the state as a facilitator. The NRI report also provides a review of the performance of the Papua Coalition government in the past 6 years as directed by Cabinet. These are contained in pages 34 to 42 of their document. Progress has been made. The challenges of the COVID have been dealt with, but much of the recurring weaknesses still persist, including a reliance on fiscal deficits and burgeoning debt, little foreign direct investment, a heavy reliance on the commodity price cycle, lack of data, election integrity issues, the growth of off-budget revenue flows, and an ever-growing bureaucracy. Number two, from the CIMC summary of 10 years of public consultations. The consultations identified two foundational imperatives for national renewal. One, restoring trust through institutional integrity. This requires a direct and systemic confrontation with corruption through measures that depoliticize the public service, ensure transparent management of public funds, guarantee merit-based appointments, and reform the electoral process. Number two principle was anchoring reform in participatory governance. Going to the UNDP report, which states, notwithstanding its significant accomplishment over the last 5 decades, Papua New Guinea marks its 50th anniversary at a time of deep development challenges and narrowing windows of opportunity. The country is in a human development crisis. Demographic pressures, climate risks, and a more volatile global landscape are placing additional strain on already overstretched institutions. Yet, this moment also presents an opening to reframe PNG's development model, reset its governance foundations, and renew the social contract with between the state and its citizens. Number 4, the ANU UPNG book on PNG's economic history since independence says on page 19, while each period is distinctive, because it breaks the economic history or our history into 4 periods, while each period is distinctive, overall, PNG's post-independence development record has been disappointing. John Connell's conclusion two decades ago that neither consistent growth nor sustainable development have been achieved since independence remains valid today. The last 2 periods have seen a slightly better performance than the first 2. However, for the entire post-independence period, the growth rate of non-resource GDP per person has only averaged 0.4% per year, and formal sector employment only 1.5%, well below the population growth rate. PNG's growth performance is not the worst in the world, but it is certainly well below average. Non-income indicators are alarmingly low by international standards, and in some cases have worsened. In recent years, PNG has had the lowest rate of immunization, the 4th highest rate of child stunting and risk of premature death from non-communicable disease, and the 7th lowest doctor-population ratio in the world. Okay, from the same book, reforms are needed for faster growth and better development outcomes. Whether they will be undertaken or not depends on deeper institutional factors, which are the subject of Chapter 12. It emphasizes what it calls a pattern of hyper-politics, or very local, popular, and insecure politics with weak partners, a constant contestation for power, and no clear distinction between the political and business class. Hyper-politics has been conducive to political regime stability, but has not otherwise been supportive of development. Coming to the end. Grand Chief himself, Dr. John Moma, says in our foreword that he wrote, he says, we have strayed over time from important principles in the Constitution, like the sharing of power. The Bougainville situation is an example of this. Leaders have forgotten the people and become more concerned with making money and holding on to power. We are now at the mercy of a highly centralized and bureaucratized government. Close quotations. We did 51 separate consultations, including from the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, and down. The full list of the consultation is on page 52 of the document. The document itself is only 62 pages long, people. Very concise. The whole document is 282 pages because of the annexes, documents that I mentioned. But the document itself is only 62 pages long. It is not a long prescriptive document, as I keep saying. Okay? It's just addressing through some basic principles the underlying issues. It took only 2 months of work since the technical committee started in June. The first draft was concluded by the 31st of July. On the 30th of August, it was presented to Government Caucus. And on the 1st of September, presented to Cabinet. NEC decision number 198 endorsed the roadmap for implementation through a delivery unit established at the Department of Prime Minister and NEC. The Chief Secretary, based on his recommendations to Cabinet and advice to the PM, appointed myself to lead the delivery unit on the 10th of September. Okay. This review exercise has led to a simple and concise roadmap of only 62 pages, as I said. It's called Reset at 50. This name was added by the PM in his speech at the CIMC National Forum at APEC House on the 2nd of April 2025. The reset name comes from the Prime Minister himself. The word reset has obvious connotations. The document is a call for a reset in the governance approach to our nation. It is a call to revisit and restore the constitutional framework of our governance system. It is an affirmation of the sanctity of our Constitution and the belief in the intentions of our founding fathers and the system they gave us. This includes the fundamental principle of the separation and balance of power and authority between the 3 arms of government, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, as I alluded to earlier. This document calls for a reset in our focus back to the ordinary citizens of our country, what is truly best for their lives through integral human development, which is the first principle of the 5 guiding and directing principles in the preamble of the Constitution. This document is a call for a reset to a data-driven, analysis-driven logic to government decision-making. This document is a call for a reset to a governance approach based on facilitation, empowering, and enabling, rather than one based on intervention, duplication of roles, and over-regulation. This document is a call for a reset to a greater emphasis on accountability, monitoring, coordination, and impact. This document calls for urgency to address the demographic time bomb. There are 5 key principles in this document. 10 big bets. Big bets is the term that we use, as mentioned by the Chancellor. Chancellor, congratulations on your 50-year reform or 30-year reform. There's 14 case studies and 43 quick wins. Okay, I will not be going through them now. I'll be addressing those in this afternoon session because it will just take too long. So, on behalf of our steering committee, on behalf of Arthur and myself, I say thank you again to the Prime Minister and the NEC for this opportunity. Thank you for the courage to initiate this work, Prime Minister, as part of your reform agenda. This is your project, your program, Prime Minister, your government's program. We are here to answer to what you asked us to do, to give you an objective review. Okay? This is not an attempt to criticize this government. This is an attempt to criticize all of us, or to shine a light on all of us and the performance since independence. Because there have been wins under each government, including this government. And we know the Prime Minister loves his country, his prime is absolute best. We are here to support him, as I say. Once again, Chief Secretary Ivan Pomaliu, we really appreciate you and the staff, your support. And so, as I say once again, and in closing, we are Team Papua New Guinea. The hard work is before us. It's one thing to write a document, it's another thing to unite and actually get the implementation done. I encourage you all to please take the opportunity to read the document. I noticed some criticism this morning saying, oh, the document, it doesn't include things like the land mobilization. Excuse me, big bet number 8 is land mobilization. Please read the document before you criticize it. Huh? That's the first thing you do before you just rush to criticize. But I emphasize this is not a prescriptive document. It doesn't say how to address education, how to address health. Those are things that have already been addressed in the existing plans. The existing health plans, education plans, law and order plans, this is just an attempt to address why those plans are not being properly implemented. I'm repeating myself here again. There's a 2-year implementation plan that we are going to try our very best to get into as with the direction of our Cabinet. So once again, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for your time today. And we really, really appreciate your coming and participating in this process. Thanks again, as always, to our good Prime Minister. And glory goes back to God for blessing us with this beautiful country. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.